Okay, welcome to the Secret Scholar podcast. We're going to be talking today about the social network. Here with composer extraordinaire, Vlad.
And filmmaker extraordinaire, Warren.
Yep. All right, diving in. So, I had an interesting conversation with my screen class last night about this story when we were analyzing subtext and how well Sorkin incorporates that into this film. So the subtext, we have boats on the surface of the ocean are the words, everything beneath the surface is subtext. We go about our lives, we don't communicate really in words. There's that saying, most communication is nonverbal. I do believe that's true. And it's really important when working with actors, understanding directing, as well as writing. So let's dive into the subtext. Subtext comes from what a character wants and what a character needs. Sometimes they aren't the same thing. So let's take the opening scene of the social network. Interiors, the pub, the bar, the college bar, crowded bar. Mark Zuckerberg in a conversation with Erica Albright, and he gets dumped by Erica. The last sentence in that scene.
You're gonna go through life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that that won't be true. It'll be because you're an asshole.
This sets up the first scene, what Mark, that is the instigating incident. You often hear that introduced in the first act. You have to have an instigating incident. It sets the motion in the story in motion. Everything Mark does over the course of this is really spurred by being dumped by Erica Albright. And this comes full circle. What's the last scene of the movie? He's sitting there, the counselor, the lawyer's talking. As she walks out of the room, the last piece of dialogue in the movie.
You're not an asshole, Mark. You're just trying so hard to be.
So that statement comes full circle, and the last shot of the movie, Mark Zuckerberg sitting there like this, looking at his computer, the profile, the friend request sent to Erica Albright, which has not been accepted, hitting refresh. 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 It's showing his back to what his internal drive was. Now the character at the end, will they get what they want? They might not, they might. Did Mark Zuckerberg get what he really internally needed? He might have gotten what he wanted, but did he get what he needed? That's the beauty of, that's a great setup in that screenplay. Talking about the rhythm of Sorkin, his dialogue. It's another huge component of all this. You can hear, when you hear Sorkin dialogue, you can go, oh, that's a Sorkin film, right? Like Molly's Game, that's a Sorkin film. It's that Steve Jobs movie, it's a Sorkin film. As a musician, we hear a lot of people talking about on YouTube the musicality, how he treats dialogue as music. Do you agree with that statement as a musician?
I think more as rhythm, and he said it as well. It doesn't have to, we don't have to dissect what his impression of his own work is. It's the rhythm of it, and there are complementary rhythms, even the lines, so the back and forth, right? Like in this particular case, in the social network, right, Zuckerberg, he says a line, and then it's like the counterpoint to that, Erica, boom, boom, and then he says another one, and it's like a Baroque composition, like a fugue, almost, where everything has a rhythm, everything has a counterpoint to that, and yeah, it's really satisfying to just listen to the dialogue, even if you don't know the language they're talking in. I think it's going to be.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion.
Yeah.
That rhythm.
Yeah.
They even did an auto-tune cut at the Oscars that year, and it's like Facebook. You know, $1 billion isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 million or $1 billion. Anyways.
And somebody's going to sample you now, and they're going to do an auto-tune of yours.
Do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of music in his dialogue. A lot of people accuse him sometimes that he uses too much dialogue.
Yeah, the opening scene is 9 pages of straight dialogue.
Right, but he seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, he's winning. I mean, he's doing something right.
Right.
What do you think of moving to the music of the film? What do you think of that score?
It's brilliant, right? It's so non-traditional. It's not a score, you know, the entire process, from what I gather, was not traditional when it came to scoring the movie. David Fincher put the theme music for a lot of directors is really important. And I remember him mentioning that he used an Elvis Costello song for that opening scene. Not the bar scene, I guess the scene after where he...
Right, he's running back to the dorm.
Yeah.
Titles.
Elvis Costello with that, you know, walking back to his dorm through Cambridge, through Harvard, you know, it sets up the wrong expectation. All right, it sets up the expectation that this movie is going to be another college movie. Here's some college students, they're doing things, we're telling a story just how you would expect it to be. So when I'm talking about the non-traditional aspect of this is, first they had a vision, they knew they wanted something electronic, some synthesizer, something that hasn't been done before in a way, right? They knew they didn't want the traditional orchestra, so they reach out to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They did not have a spotting session, they did not get dailies, they got a script, they read the script. And that was so interesting about it, because you can't get into the director's mind and say, okay, that's the vision, that's what I'm going to do with the music, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, No, they went into the studio, they started recording sounds, and they basically sent a 16, 17, 20-track album back to Fincher for him to listen to. A lot of times you get something like that, you listen to it, and then you have notes, right? Like as a director, okay, I like this, but maybe we can go in this direction, maybe we can tweak this, maybe we can do that. The amazing thing was that he loved it, every bit of it.
There was no notes?
There was no notes. And a lot of the music that actually made it into the movie was from those first 16, 17 tracks. The brilliant thing is how Fincher, with the music supervisor and his team, how they picked that one specific track, because I think that's what makes the movie, and that's what makes that scene great, right? Like that beginning track with the solo piano.
I see it pop up all over the place on YouTube, shorts. It's because it's such a great track to throw over almost anything. It just makes it, and it just elevates it.
Right. So it happened. They had the they had the foresight of using that track, cue it on that particular scene.
Did they write it for that sequence?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not have any particular. They had. So you read a script, you're left with an impression of the script. I don't think they wrote music for a specific scene or for a specific... I think they wrote music inspired by the feeling of the script, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, the brilliant part was just cueing it to that particular moment. And not that particular moment alone. And that's where the little tweaks were actually made. Mm-hmm. So that music shows up in 3 key moments in the movie.
Do you remember what the key moments were besides the...
Yeah. So it was at the beginning, the running scene. It was during one of the hearings where there was a line there.
Is that a question?
In the 16th email, you raised concerns about the site's functionality. Were you leading them on for 6 weeks?
No.
Then why didn't you raise any of these concerns before?
It's raining.
I'm sorry?
It just started raining.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
Okay, they used it there. They used it at the end of the movie.
At the end, which scene was that?
I forget what scene it was. It's right after they have the fight with whatever his name is, Eduardo. Yeah, where they say, "Oh, you're getting 0.3%."
Right.
It's gonna be like I'm not a part of Facebook.
It won't be like you're not a part of Facebook. You're not a part of Facebook.
My name's on the masthead.
You might want to check again.
It's because I froze the account?
You think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry! My Prada's at the cleaners!
So first of all, what makes that, you could go anywhere. It's such a simple theme from a compositional point of view. It's 3 notes, 2 phrases, an antecedent and a consequent. It's been done before. You could orchestrate it however you want. You could make it as epic as you want or as quiet and soft as you want. That's not what they were going for. What they were going for was the feeling, right? What does that piano express on that bed of sounds? Like really, you know, just.
Which is kind of like subtext.
Which is, yeah, so they found, maybe by accident, maybe they actually had the genius of, you know, when Fincher heard that song, he said, oh, that track is going to belong here, and that's going to be kind of Zuckerberg's theme. I wouldn't go as far as calling it that, because there's no real themes, right? It's not Wagner or Zimmer. But it describes, I think, more the state he was in, right? So I'm developing this. He was at a very innocent stage. I think the track is actually called Hand Covers Bruise, right? Yeah. So he's at a very vulnerable stage. He's and he's about to do these things that he had no idea he was about to do, and that they're going to be so huge. But that's him. That's his state right there. That lonely piano among a sea of
his
stuff.
internal need versus his external. I think like they're using that cue for moments, those 3 moments in the movie that are reflecting his internal need,
right?
What he thinks he wants. You know, the things that is never said. Oftentimes, the most important thing is what's not said. So, like when it comes in at the end, when Eduardo is talking about how he screwed him over and everything, he's like realizing the repercussions of all of this stuff in the same way that Erica Albright dumping him impacted him. It's like that inner state. So it's interesting how the music can jump between like the internal need versus the external want. Those could be like 2 different.
Right. So
sounds.
you could interpret it like that, right? Like you could interpret it like he was, in essence, a broken soul, like, right? All those synthesizers, all that, I don't know. His internal struggle, his inability to relate to,
Social connection, yeah.
Social connection, right? And then on top of that, there's the real, because the line at the end is like, you're not an asshole, really. Right, like, but at the beginning, it's the real him. It's the piano that is recorded. So from a technical point of view now, that piano is recorded very close. So the microphone is put right against the piano, because it's him. It's almost like his true self at the beginning of the movie, trying to find a path. If you're gonna play the scenes back to back, the music stays the same, but the piano gets farther and farther away from the microphone. So in the hearing scene, you could hear a lot of reverb. It's almost like my memory of where I started is still there, but I moved away from that a little bit. And by the end of it, the microphone was across the room, the piano was there, and they recorded it to convey what? Okay, that piano, that innocence, that maybe the good part, right? It remained there, but it's in the background somewhere, and now the synths are taking over, so it's a cool metaphor, even if you didn't intend for it to be, you know?
The way it was implemented.
The way it was implemented, and from the moment they found the track to actually, because it's a living thing, music in a movie, right? It's even if you write thematically, those themes are not staying the same throughout if the character changes, the theme changes, and so on. And it's such a small change, it's such an efficient change to bring to a motif. Just adding more distance between the sound and the instrument that is being produced. That's all it takes to convey the loss of something, whatever that something is.
question?
In the 16th email, you raised concerns about the site's functionality. Were you leading them on for 6 weeks?
No.
Then why didn't you raise any of these concerns before?
It's raining.
I'm sorry?
It just started raining.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
It's gonna be like I'm not a part of Facebook.
It won't be like you're not a part of Facebook. You're not a part of Facebook.
My name's on the masthead.
You might want to check again.
It's because I froze the account?
You think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry! My Prada's at the cleaners!